Welcome back to Retro Gamer Gen X's Retro Gaming and Computing channel. And in today's video, it's not going to be so retro today. A friend of mine and a customer of mine came by and dropped this thing off. It's an Xbox One, and it's having some overheating issues. He brought it to me saying that it was just smelling really weird and just getting really hot. So I brought it in and kind of tested it out. And it never shut down on me or anything like that, but it definitely was getting warm, and it has a really bad, like, plastic, almost burning smell coming from it. So what we're going to do, we're going to go ahead and open this thing up. We're going to go ahead and clean it out, and we're going to basically take all the old crusty thermopaste off and put some new stuff on and put it back together and see if it'll run any smoother, any cooler. So without any further ado, guys, let's go ahead and rip this thing apart. Alright, so we got the Xbox here up on my workbench, and really the first step here is to take the grill off the side here. So this plastic grill just clips on, and so you gotta basically just pull it off, and the best way to do is get one of these little spalanger tools and stick in between the grates here and kind of just twist it up and pull it up until it starts popping up. And then you can actually just pull the grate completely off, as you see here. It's kind of a pain in the ass. And really, in 40 years, when people are trying to work on these consoles, I'd love to see them take these apart without it just cracking all to pieces, because we know how brittle the plastic gets. Then we're going to take this clip out here too. That holds basically the front piece of the console together. And that's really about it on this side. Now what we got to do is kind of split the two halves of the shell apart, and this is a pain in the ass. So you got to kind of pull and push while you're holding it apart there. Then you got to take your spalanger tool and find your clips down below, and they're down by the little air vent in the back there. And you just got to kind of work your way down, and I think there's like 4 or 5 clips that you got to clip open. And then once you do that, the back of the console will separate open for you. Like I said, a huge pain in the ass, guys. I'm not a fan of this clip together electronic crap. I would much rather have screws holding stuff together, because like I said, in just a few years, this plastic is already getting brittle, and this system is not that old. So I can only imagine what this is going to feel like in just a few short years. And then we flip it over, and then we do the other clips on the other side here. And then we're about ready to take the top part of the shell off. Now we want to kind of just lift it up and rotate it as we do, because there's a ribbon cable that goes to the front panel that we have to take off first, and you don't want to tear that off. And essentially it's just one of those little ribbon cable connectors where you got to flip the little plastic piece up here, and then once you do that, the ribbon cable will come out for you. This one is kind of a pain because the ribbon cable itself has like this loop that goes around the connector, and it is kind of a pain in the ass to get off of there. You can see I'm kind of struggling because it's looped around the connector. So what I did was kind of get one side off here, and then I flipped the thing over, and then it just kind of fell off. So that works for me. So there's the top cover taken off, guys. Fun times, let me tell you. So up next, we're going to disconnect the Wi-Fi cable there, just pulling it off. And then there's the piezo speaker cable here we got to pull off of the front panel circuit board. And then also we have the Wi-Fi card up here. We got to disconnect the cable off of that. So pretty easy. Just pull them off with some tweezers. And then we got to get our nice little handy dandy Torx screwdriver out here. And I forgot what size this is. I think it was a T8. I could be wrong. The first one I put on there was wrong. And it was the smaller one. And it's just 2 screws holding this thing on. And basically what you got to do is just take these screws off, and you got to pull this Wi-Fi board off of the console here. Not too hard to do. I did use a little spalanger tool underneath just to kind of, because that board is real weak. It's real thin, so I didn't want to break it. So I kind of had the spalanger help pull that out of the connector from the motherboard. But there we go, guys. That's the first part of the process here. Now is getting this top part of the, I guess you could call it RF shield off. And it has 7 screws here holding it on. And it's the same size as the Torx bit that we took out earlier. So let me go ahead and get these removed here. So now we can go ahead and lift the unit itself out of the bottom of the plastic case. And I'll put that off to the side here. And the next step really is to just take the top of the metal RF shield off of here. So we want to lift it and kind of rotate it towards the back, because there is another cable here that's connected to that Wi-Fi module that we have to disconnect from the motherboard as well. So don't go all crazy just trying to lift this thing off. So next we're going to go ahead and disconnect the SATA and the power cables from the hard drive and the Blu-ray drive as well from the motherboard. And these just lift out. They're on like little plastic risers, so you can just lift them right out. They're not screwed in or anything. Imagine that, putting screws inside of something, right? But anyway, go ahead and get the Blu-ray drive here disconnected as well. And once again, it just lifts right out of the unit. And now we have the motherboard itself exposed. So next we got to take this little daughter board for the front panel off, and it's pretty easy. It's just held on by these 3 screws right here. They're the same size Torx screws as the rest of the system. And then the board itself just pulls right off. There's a little connector on the motherboard. Now we have to remove these little plastic risers that the screws go through, and they're just clipped onto the front panel here. You just got to unclip them. And then there's the third one over there in the corner in the back. That one's actually screwed in with one of those Torx screws, so we'll go ahead and get that unscrewed here. So next up is to remove the fan cable off the motherboard here for the actual fan. Now this is pretty tough. This was really hard to get out. You got to put a lot of force into that one. At least on this system, it was kind of hard to do. A lot more force than I expected. So we'll flip this thing over, and we have 2 screws there and 2 screws here we got to take out, and then we have the heatsink screws we have to take out there. So let's go ahead and take those out, and of course they're still the same size screws as the rest of the system. So next we got to remove the motherboard off the RF shield here, and you just kind of wiggle these connectors loose out of the slots that they're in, and it'll pop right out, kind of like that. And I'll go ahead and put the RF shield to the side. What we'll need to do here is flip the motherboard over, and next we're going to have to remove the X clamp that's holding the heatsink onto the motherboard here. And it's kind of a pain, those 4 connectors. What we got to do is stick like a little screwdriver in, and then kind of, I can't say pry, but kind of move it over to one side, and then the other side will kind of pop off. It's kind of a pain to do, but once you get the hang of it, it actually is not too bad. And once you get it all loose, it just pulls right off, and you can lift the motherboard and the heatsink just falls right out there. So we'll put that over to the side. And yeah, so we got the completed stripped motherboard here, and as you guys can see, this thermo paste is definitely dried up and pretty crusty. Not the worst I've ever seen, not like on the PlayStation 3. The thermal paste on the PS3 is horrible. This isn't too bad, but we're gonna go ahead and fix it. So let me go ahead and zoom in here so you guys can kind of see what we're doing. But basically I'm just gonna get some 99% isopropanol and clean the top of this processing unit off, just to get all that thermal paste off. Then once you're done cleaning the chip off, then it's rinse and repeat for the heatsink itself. Let's go ahead and get that cleaned up. Okay, now that the heatsink's all cleaned up as far as the thermal paste goes, what we're going to do now is basically clean all the fins out with canned air. There's a little bit of dust in there, but not too bad, not like a lot of heatsinks I've seen. But we're going to go ahead and spray that out with canned air, then we're going to go ahead and give everything a good wipe down with some 99% isopropanol and start putting this thing back together again. Next, we'll go ahead and add some thermal paste to the processor here, and everybody's got a little bit of a different method of doing it. What I do is just put a little dab on here, and then I spread it out on the processor itself, and if there's not enough, I put a little bit more on, and then I spread it out some more until it's completely even across the processor itself. Like I said, everybody's got a different method, but let me go ahead and get this done here, guys. So next we want to go ahead and install the heatsink back onto the motherboard. And it's pretty simple. We just got to make sure that you align it the right way so that the fan cable actually, can plug into the motherboard. So make sure you do that right. And then we got to install this X clamp back on. And oh, you guys notice that? Look at that. We have liquid damage, like something got spilled onto this console on the bottom of the board. I didn't even look at the bottom of the board. So what I'm going to do, let's go ahead and get this clamp put back on, and then we'll see if we can kind of clean up some of this liquid damage. That's odd because the console works fine. So something got spilled on this console once upon a time ago. But let's get this clamp put back on. So now let's go ahead and get some of this liquid damage or liquid off the board if we can, and that's looking pretty crusty, guys. I don't know if that's actually going to even come off. It looks like even like the outside of the board, the ground plane, is actually turning brown from it, like it's corrosion. Let me zoom in here and kind of show you guys what I'm talking about. As you guys can see here, definitely looks like something got spilt on this thing once upon a time. And honestly, I don't know what that would be. Like I said, the system works just fine. So maybe that's why it was overheating, because it had some liquid spilled on it once upon a time. I don't know, but as you guys can see, it's just all over the board in certain areas. It's kind of weird. I wonder if that's from manufacturing? I don't know. Because the owner of the system never said that anything got spilt on it. But let me see if I can get this cleaned up. We'll use some 99% isopropanol. But as crusty as this stuff is, I have my doubts, guys. But let me get started here. Alright guys, so kind of an update here. That stuff is not coming off. I have tried and tried and tried, and it's just not coming off. So what I'm thinking it is this solder paste left over from manufacturing that they never cleaned off the board. And that would kind of hint to why it's in those like splotchy areas. It's just kind of weird. But what I'm going to do here, guys, we're going to go ahead and basically clean up the rest of the components that are on here, like the disk drives and stuff. I'm just going to wipe them down with isopropanol and just start the process of basically putting this thing back together here. Okay, now that we got everything put back together, let's go ahead and get this thing connected up to a TV and give it a test and see if it'll actually even turn on anymore after I messed with it. I'm sure everything will be fine. Really, I'm just concerned whether it'll get as hot as it did. So we'll go ahead and give that a shot and see if it's working properly now. And here we go, smoke test. So looks like it's booting up here. Everything looks good. It does take a while for the Xbox to load and boot. It's kind of wild how these newer consoles take forever to just boot up. Now once it's powered on, you boot it once, when you shut it off, it actually goes into more of a standby mode. So the next time you power it on, it actually boots up a little bit faster. But yeah, just an atrocious amount of time just waiting here for it to actually just boot up to the menu screen. I mean, really, guys. And then people wonder why I don't like modern day consoles with this and then all the updates all the time, and then it's just insane. I love the old school. Alright, finally, looks like it's going to take us to the menu screen, the home screen, or whatever the hell it's called. And they did leave a disc in the disk drive here, some NBA playground game or something. So I'm going to go ahead and play that here and just kind of give it a test to see how it runs. I'll probably play it for like an hour or so, and I'll check back with you guys. Alright, so after about an hour, it's running just fine. The fans are running quiet, everything's good. Doesn't have that burnt plastic smell anymore like it had before. And it's not warm to the touch, so I'm going to go ahead and say that, yeah, this is fixed. But I wanted to thank all my viewers, all my subs, and everybody out there. If you like the content, don't forget to hit that like, that subscribe, and that notification bell. Peace out, you guys.
Game over, man. It's game over.